We don't build armies the same way we used to. And we certainly don't play the game the way we used to. So let me ask you, why are you still building terrain the same old way? Find out a new way to build terrain today on Tactical Terrain. Welcome back to another episode of Tactical Terrain. As always, I'm your host, Eric, and this week we jump on the bandwagon like everybody else so far in 40k, and that would be the Magnus bandwagon. Wrath of Magnus has just released, so I thought it'd be appropriate that we decide to come out with a piece of terrain themed with that. So what we're going to be showing here is how to build your very own Silver Tower inspired terrain piece. This will be good for both 40k as well as Age of Sigmar. Key thing with this, we're going to be showing off some new techniques that we've never shown before, so advanced etching techniques. We're going to show you two new tools, including our table saw, and as well as another technique using the table saw, which is called cloning. Now, normally I try to ease you guys into some simple techniques. No, we're going to dive right into some advanced techniques in this particular episode. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do here is start with our big old chunk of foam. I'm going to lay this down to give you an idea what size this is, and you can have your own fun from there. It looks like about 10 inches, and I think the key thing is going to be about 8 inches across. So as we work with this, it may actually shrink down a little bit smaller. You'll see as steps go through. Important thing is, 1 inch thick, and it is the pink foam for this particular step. Don't go cheap with the regular styrofoam that has all the holes. So what I have here is one of the floor tiles from the Silver Tower game. I'm going to rely on Games Workshop to show me what Zeech is supposed to look like rather than come up with my own original design. What I've done here is did a quick photocopy of it. Really doesn't need to be in color. Actually, black and white's preferred. The key is that you want maximum contrast. I've got here some painter's tape. I'm going to attach said photocopy to the piece of foam. This is important because more intricate designs like this, you will have to lift the paper a few times, or you may need to walk away from this, and you do not want this paper shifting. Otherwise, your whole technique will go completely kaput, and you have to start over from scratch. So there we go. Next piece you need is a ordinary ballpoint pen. The more ordinary, the better. There you go, ballpoint pen. And what we're going to do is trace every single line on this design, which is why you needed that high contrast of black and white. And as you can see, I'm just tracing away. So you don't need to be an artist here. Just a simple tracing technique. And this is so exciting to watch. I'm tracing as we go through. The important thing here, slow and steady. This is the time where you want to invest the time into making this look really good. All those little details, that where the curves are versus where the sharp edges are, this is where you want to spend your time really pushing down through the paper into the foam and continue to trace away. Now, one of the things you're going to see as I lift, let's go over this line one more time just to make sure it gets all the way through. As I lift the paper, you'll notice that an impression has been made on the foam from my pushing through with the ballpoint pen. It's essential because what we're going to do in the next step is use these guidelines to further our design. By the way, by the time this thing's done, this piece of paper, this photocopy, is not going to be reusable, so don't spend a lot of time on fancy paper or anything like that. The pushing of the pen and the etching will pretty much ruin this particular stencil. But the idea is that continue to follow every single line as it goes through. As you can see, our stenciling is done, and I have a tool out here. This is our etching tool. You've seen this a couple times. This is basically that little tip is going to get really hot, and I'm going to follow each one of these little lines that I carved out with the pen. The idea here is not so much as to carve all the way through. I just want a little groove or channel, because just like in miniature painting, you're going to base coat this and then apply a wash to it to collect in the recesses. What we're doing here is creating the recesses for the wash to accumulate. As you see, as I work the detail here, what I'm doing, it's kind of subtle to watch, but I do spin the piece around so I get the most comfortable feeling of being able to pull the thing. Oop, there, messed up a little bit. Go back over the line and even it out. As I just continue to etch through, I also use my pinky on that right hand that's holding it to adjust the height of the etching tool as it goes through. Real simple design. Keep going through, and I'm just going to continue to follow all these little lines there that are on my design. So I'm going to continue to work here. Now, a lot of people ask me, do I have a rhyme or reason in terms of where to start in the pattern first? When it comes to etch work, no. I just happen to grab whatever seems to catch easiest to etch at this particular point. So I'm kind of going in a pretty much random pattern. But the key thing that I do is I get to a sharp corner like that, I lift it out. Don't try to move the etching around the corner. You'll get a rounded corner and you won't get a nice sharp corner like we're doing here. But when it comes to rounded edges, nice fluid motion like I'm doing here, get all the way through. That's brilliant, Eric. You put your hand right in front of the camera. You get the point. And if you have to stop, you can't get all the way through, we're just going to pick up where we left off and continue to move through. Now I have that sharp corner. I'm going to lift up and then I'm going to pick up where that corner. There we go. So now we got a nice, so now we get the curves are curvy and the corners are sharp. And there we go. So when we're all complete, it's going to look something like this. Wow! It's pretty cool. And it takes a little bit of time, takes a little bit of effort, but again, slow and steady can really sets up your painting. Now let's get our original out again. Let's take a look at this real quick. Now, see the similarity, see where I'm going for. Yep. And those little circles that you see that I didn't carve out in the blue and white sections, we'll do those with paint later. Anyway, when I want to show you something, let's look at the original and the artist drawings here. And if you'll notice that there's these little shadings here. Let's get the better look here. See these little black areas there? You know from trickery of light and all that, but the artist is implying here that these are steps. So you're working your way down the steps, and this is kind of a different heights. So what we're looking here is that this would be all different heights. That would be the lowest point here, that from the way our artist has drawn that. And we're going to duplicate that in foam. So what I've done here is I'm going to first keep track of this. So I'm going to write down the numbered steps. So remember, it's just step number 3. That's number 4. If you remember on our drawing that this next area is actually the same height. So we're going to keep all our 3's together. So make sure they line out. Remember, this is our lowest point. So this will be our highest number, number 5. And then we'll do the same thing over here. Our first step will be step number 1. Mark that off. And, oh, hey, wait, whoa, don't, that's the wrong one, Eric. Cross that off. There we go. That's number 1. Work our way down to number 2, number 3. Good to go. This will be important later when we try to put all this together, because this is going to be like a puzzle. Alright, so a new tool that we've got here. This is my tables cutter. It's pretty much, as you can see, hot wire. It gets heated up just like a bow tool, but it's actually mounted on this table, so it's great for perpendicular cuts or areas where I just need to be straight up and down. And you're going to see this a lot in this particular demonstration. So the first thing we are going to do is cut out that section. So what I'm going to do is, it's already heated up, and I'm going to push this through. You can see the hot wire line is already cutting through. I'm just going to follow the lines. So where those stairwell formed. So cut along there. And good thing I already etched these out, so it's a pretty clear line to follow. And just slowly guiding through, slow and steady wins the race. You don't want to be forcing this through. You don't want to break the wire. At the same point, you want to be very good with your accuracy, because we need to push this all back together in the final steps like a puzzle. And basically, this is kind of like a hot wire version of Etch-a-Sketch. So you're just kind of pushing this through. One of the key things I will warn you as you push through is not only you want to be slow and steady, but make sure you have enough room. So as you're cutting through, nothing's worse than as you're pushing through and you realize you got like a book or a cup or something in your way, or like your beverage container, and it blocks your ability to move this piece back and forth. There we go, slight screw up. I'm just going to back it up and redraw the line. Nice and slow, slow and steady. It's not a race. And this is our next technique. We talked about cloning. So what I've done is I've taken that big chunk completely out, and because I needed 4 layers of steps, what I've done is cut it off. So I'm going to have 3 sections, and the 4th one will be the bottom section. So what I'm doing is, we'll do it on the next piece. It'll be a clear section. I'm going to take the piece and make a flat section that I can push. I'm going to hold it against that sled, which I've already calibrated to be about 1/4 of an inch. And I keep pushing there with even pressure. You don't want this thing to be teetering back and forth. And as I push through, there we go. You can see the wire come through, and right about now, there you go. And this is a technique called cloning. Some people do this to build walls. They get like thick foam, cut out their windows first, and slide it through. We're going to be doing something a little bit different. All right, once we've moved the sled out of the way, we are now going to cut out our stairs. So we're just going to follow our sections here, slide this through. Again, these are getting kind of really small, so safety first, don't burn your fingers. And I just realized I made another mistake. That bottom layer, yeah, we didn't want to cut that yet. We only want to cut the top 3. So we're going to remove that for the next couple steps. We'll fix it later. There we go. So we got all 3 sections from our cloning step from the previous step, and we're going to cut out our stairs, simply following the line that we had etched earlier. There we go. We'll cut that out again. Keep them off to the side. As you thinner pieces, just watch your fingers, guide it through. Doesn't need a lot of pressure to move these things through, and actually it's pretty effortless for the wire to cut through the foam. There we go. Keep sliding through, and we're going to save those pieces, so don't just toss them aside. We need everything we got here. And we're going to work again, sliding it through. Again, make sure you have enough space to get your whole piece, and we're going to keep all these pieces together. There we go. Continue to follow the line. I think you guys get the point. It's a great handy tool. All the way through. And you'll see why we numbered these in the next step here, because that's going to be essential in putting all these pieces back together. So one thing you're not going to see, I did this off camera, but all those little sections there, the stacks, I've glued them together. So they're final pieces. So here is what we've got, our step 4, and there we go, put that in. Notice layer 5 is the floor. We talked about that. That's layer 4. So now we'll start now with layer 1. So I stacked all those pieces together. Our other layer number 1. Where's our puzzle piece number 1? We're gluing, put some glue on that. You don't see that off camera. I'm just using ordinary liquid nails, and we're going to shove that back into the corner where it came from. Okay, now we've got all our 1s down. Let's go on to step 2. Those are our steps 2. Same, apply a little glue onto the bottom, and we're going to slide that into place. And look at that, the beginning of the staircase is starting to form. Let's get our other number 2. There he is, tiny little bugger. All right, let's get him some glue. Awesome sauce. There we go. Move on to number 3. Got all our 2s are down. Ironically, we have 3 number 3s. There we go. And it's good to dry fit this just like you do with your models. And I noticed that, hey, this isn't quite fitting like I remembered it. There we go. Fits right in there. It should be an exact fit because, heck, these were the original pieces, and you simply cut them apart. It's another number 3. Applying some glue off camera. All right, let's make sure, hey, that's not quite right. Here we go. It should be around that little pillar there. There we go. Slide into place. A little pressure so the glue sticks. There we are. Our last piece, number 3. We're going to glue that in. All right, let's get this in. And you'll see the finished product for this point. Voila, our staircase is done. We're going to have to finish this in the next episode, so hang with us for part 2 of the Silver Tower. Thanks again for watching. Remember, as always, Frontline Gaming sells Games Workshop products at up to 25% off retail every day. You can also pick up some cheap models in our second-hand shop. Some of the gems are quite rare, and sometimes they're fully painted. All of this available at www.frontlinegaming.org.